call her back, Cheryl. I don't know if she has her volume on.
Okay. Can you hear us?
I sure can.
There we go. Okay, thank you. All right, we are ready to begin our final live session of the day. We have wiggled with Joel. We've talked about equity with Dr. Cleveland, and now Colleen Mizuki is going to take us through some breathing. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, and welcome everybody. So I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, I am pretending like you're in the room with me because I've had the honor and pleasure of being present with JCPS for a number of years, and I know we're all just doing what we can to make it feel real, so I'm going to do that. And so I deliberately chose not to use slides since this is a live event. I have a whiteboard I'll pull in if I need it, but this is a demonstration and a guided practice anyway, so it made more sense to not thrust the slides in your face. My name is Colleen Mizuki, and I'm really thrilled to be doing this. I just love JCPS. I've loved everybody that I've worked with. And as I've said for several years, I've been involved in your professional development days, and I'm always thrilled and honored to do it. The main reason is because I have so much respect for you. And this is me talking to you from the heart, that my background, I'm a psychologist, I worked in high tech as an analyst until I really realized what my passion is, and it's around helping people and psychology. You know, I was off doing things in high tech and thinking, no, I'm not really making a big difference in the world, so what can I do? And so I went back to school later, got my master's in psychology, trained as a therapist. And then I readjusted and I said, actually, what I want to do is coach and train people. So that's why I'm here today. I'm offering you information that I've been studying and researching and using and teaching for about 15, 18 years, primarily with the military, also with firefighters and other high stress populations like you, right? I think of you all similarly to, I think, of the military or the firefighters or anybody who's sort of on the front lines, because not that you're being shot at, but that you're dealing with a lot of stress and you have a lot of commitment to your mission. So very, very similar to military or law enforcement and firefighters, and I have so much respect for that. At the same time, it takes its toll on you, and I know that. And so that's why my heart is really in this, sharing information and practices with you. So I'm glad to be here. I want this to be interactive as much as we can make it be interactive in a virtual environment. We're all doing our best. Thanks to Cheryl for monitoring the chat. So I will do my very best to pause. I get really excited about this topic, and I just can go on. And I'm trying to keep it really narrow and specific for you during this live session. But I promised Cheryl that I would pause so that she can read the chat and doesn't have to interrupt. But Cheryl, interrupt me if you have to. One of the things that I asked Cheryl if she would do, and that is to put my email address at some point, not right now necessarily, but my email address and my website in the chat, because I'm going to be covering a very important and very complex topic. Even though we think, what can be complex about breathing? I breathe every day, right? But it's a really important part of not just living, but of being at our best. And so it's a very complicated topic, and I'm presenting just a smidgen of it and guiding you in some practices. So I really want to make available to you resources and me and my team if you have questions. So don't hesitate to email me after this segment, any of us on the team, and I'll mention what I mean by that in a moment. So please, thank you, Cheryl, for doing that. And I would be honored to follow up with you if you have questions or want to be reminded of how to do a practice or so forth. By the team, I mean that we have the honor of presenting 4 segments, 2 live and 2 asynchronous or recorded. And it's really part of a larger system because we are a system, right? We often think just about the mind or what we're thinking. Sometimes we think about the brain, and sometimes we think about the body, but we are a walking brain, mind, body system. And that brain, mind, body system, and you'll hear me refer to it as a system, has a number of subsystems that are constantly working together and feeding. So my team is going to be offering information and tips to help keep this mind, brain, body system in top working order, especially under chronic stress. So nutrition, if you choose to do the nutrition class this afternoon, it's going to feed into what I'm talking about. No pun intended, although I wish that I had. My daughter says that I'm funny, but I don't mean to be. So bless her heart, I wish she could be here right now to give me a hard time. I'll be doing the breathing practices. I will be talking about stress. And then we'll have another recorded session if you choose to view it on sleep and exercise. And then I'll do a session on sort of mindful meditation and movement, because that's another tool. So these are all tools that we do. We exercise, we walk, if only to the car and back, but we do. We move our bodies, we eat, obviously, and we breathe, obviously. But what we want to offer is a deeper look at how eating and food choices and sleeping and sleep choices and exercise or movement choices and breathing choices, which might sound weird to say, how those can help us counteract what I'm going to say, and I don't think it's overstating, the absolute corrosive and toxic effects of chronic stress. And I know that you're no stranger to stress. None of us are, but I do know that you all, in your commitment to helping the future by helping children and their families, you're dealing with a lot. So I'm going to pause for just a second because I promised I would do that. And I'm just going to wait to see if there are any initial comments, requests, anything that Cheryl needs to share with me, and then I'll move on. So I'll give myself like a 5-second breathing practice. How's that?
Okay, well, you're looking good here.
Hey, Cheryl, if it's okay, while Colleen is taking a breathing practice, if you're just tuning in, please look at the chat. All information has been shared there as far as PD hours and any references or sites that Cheryl needs to share. She will do so after today. And at 11:30, the afternoon session links will be added to the slide deck that I am putting in the chat.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, I did remember to pause, Cheryl, so I'm going to keep trying, but jump up and down with your voice since I only see your static picture. So let's just start, and I want to leave all of our time, except for maybe another 10 minutes of talking at you, if I may, just to set the stage for why I'm going to teach you what I'm going to teach you. Or it may be things that you've done before, but I'm going to guide you and we're going to talk about it really, really quickly. This is like the down and dirty flyby of chronic stress. Our systems, our brain, mind, body systems, were not optimized, created, designed, wired, whatever verb works best for you, for the day-to-day onslaught of stress. And that actually creates a lot of problem in our system, our brain, mind, and body. So what we need to do is make choices on how to use our time, how to make food choices, and how to engage in really simple not necessarily easy, but simple practices to help our system keep itself tuned up, if you will. So if you will allow me, I'm going to do again, my daughter gives me a really hard time. She's my biggest fan and my worst critic of what she calls my masterpiece. So let me just pull in my little handy whiteboard here. And I just want to talk really briefly. And sorry, there's a little bit of reflection. I'm in lovely California this week, and it's very light outside. And I just want to draw for you something really quickly to explain why these breathing practices are so important. So let's say we wake up in the morning, and this right here, this is our sort of our baseline stress level. I hope you can see that all right. So this baseline stress level, right? The way that our system is designed to work, if you will, is let's put ourselves back in long time ago when we were living in tribes and we were in huts or some sort of living environment, and we were dealing with big animals, and we were dealing with the tribe over there that actually wanted our territory. So let's say we got up in the morning out of our hut or our cave, or, you know, just imagine us on a savanna somewhere thousands of years ago, and not in cities and not in cars, right? We're walking everywhere. And we get up in the morning, and we've had a good rest. So our stress level is at a nice baseline. So we get up, and then we hear a noise, and we see movement. And immediately our system gets activated. So our stress, our fight or flight that you've all heard about, our autonomic nervous system, which is a crucial part of our overall nervous system, that's helping us respond to stress or threats. So it gets activated or aroused. Our fight or flight, it's like a gas pedal, gets kicked on. Heart rate goes up, stress hormones are produced to help us run, to help us fight, maybe to put us into freeze, like animals go into freeze. That's a very, very actually active state. It just doesn't look like it. But we get really activated. Our heart rate goes up, our adrenaline, our cortisol, all of that's kicking in. Well, then what happens is we run. We use up these stress chemicals. We run, we fight. And then what happens is when the threat passes, our system does what it needs to do, and it starts to down-regulate. It starts to reset. So here is our sympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic branch, which kicks in fight or flight. It's totally on. That gas pedal is on. When our system no longer has to face the threat, our parasympathetic nervous system, the PNS, that other branch of our stress response system, kicks in. It's like the brake pedal. That allows us to rest and digest. You've all probably heard about that at some point in a biology class, or you've read it. So we have the gas pedal, we have the brake pedal. Well, that brake pedal is supposed to stay on. We're supposed to be able to completely reset the system so that we are stronger and more capable of fighting and running and surviving the next day. That's how we're created. That's how this system is created, wired to respond. Here's life today. We get up in the morning, let's say we've had a good night's sleep. So we're actually had a nice, we had a good 7-8 hours. We didn't have to get up multiple times to go to the restroom. We didn't have kids crying. We slept really well. So our system reset. We get up, and then the alarm goes off. Well, we're already probably right here because that kicks in a fight or flight response. And then we bolt up in bed and we think, oh, I didn't do X yesterday. A little more activation in the system, okay? So add to that. Running late, somebody's sick, gotta get them to the doctor. Oh my gosh, I didn't pay that bill. The phone is ringing. Before we even get to work, whether it's physical work or at our desk in our home, we're activated. We've got stress hormones coursing through the system. The interesting thing is the body and the brain don't actually know the difference between that animal outside the cave and these stressors that I just talked about. They are the same chemical, physical reactions happening no matter what the stressor is. But we didn't get to run. We didn't get to fight. We did not use up the stress hormones. So let's say we sit down to breakfast, we have a cup of tea or coffee, we have a chat with our partner, our spouse, our kids. Okay, well then we actually start to down-regulate a little bit. We actually start to come down this curve because our bodies want to do that. They want to reset. They seek this cycle. So we're looking for things. Or our mind kicks in, mind being the conceptual part of this whole system, says, you know what, I can pay that bill later, right? All the reasoning that goes on, kids will be fine, we'll get to work, the deadline will be met. And we do start to reset. And then something else happens. The boss calls. I need you to do X really quickly. You weren't prepared for that. The phone rings again. Something else happens. You guys can think of a litany of things that can happen, that happen every day, whether it's in our minds and our thoughts and our beliefs, or it's something that happens outside. Well, guess what happens? We don't get to do the rest of this. Life stops us from actually fully resetting. And that's where the problem occurs. Those hormones, the cortisol, the adrenaline, all of the stress hormones, that heart rate that's gone up because of the adrenaline, you know what? The adrenaline might metabolize quickly. The adrenaline breaks down pretty quickly, but cortisol does not. And cortisol is great in the short term when we're under threat, but it can stay in the system for up to 12 hours. And every time we have a stress response, we produce cortisol. And that's toxic. It actually is toxic for the brain, and it's toxic for the body. And it leads to disease because it creates inflammation. And all of those things that I just talked about, all of those stress responses, whenever we're in fight or flight, and we're not in rest and digest, which is most of the day, we usually have the gas pedal on and not the brake pedal, it messes with our gut. So this whole brain, mind, body system is constantly under threat, actually. And that means that our system is not working the way it's supposed to. And that is toxic. That leads to disease. Autoimmune disease, cardiovascular disease, brain disease. It messes with our memories. The good news is we know a lot about this, and we know what we can do to get ourselves back down that cycle so that we can be even more resilient the next day. It takes very particular choices in breathing practices. You've heard of meditation, exercise. Exercise is wonderful, and you know it's good for you, but it doesn't take care of all of this, actually. It's important, but it's not the whole picture. We all know that eating healthfully is super important, and you'll hear more about that if you choose to listen to the nutrition class. Great, important, it's not the whole picture. Breathing, how we breathe every day, but we're not breathing for full reset. So let me get into that. Let me talk about that now, and then I'm going to start the breathing practices. So I'm keeping myself on a little timer here. We've got 40 minutes left. I've done all the real sort of lecture I want to do. I want to pause, Cheryl, to see if there are already any comments, any questions.
A lot of people are saying I needed this session, and that you're talking directly to them, which is what I said to myself. I think I need a one-on-one with you. It says stress rules my life. Stress will make a person sick. A lot of comments about stress and dealing with it.
Well, thank you for that. Anything else before I?
Yeah, some are asking, how do you find the time? And that's always their question, is how do you find the time for that breathing?
excellent question. So thank you all for that. I'm gonna bring my little whiteboard back in because I want to write myself a note and put it in red so I remember. So how do we find the time? Super good question. None of us have enough time, right? We live in a constant state of limited resources, energy, time, money. I happen to be staying at a friend's house that's a gorgeous house. I don't have enough money for this kind of a house. I have limited resources. Most of us have severely limited resources, time being one of the main ones. So I will say right now, and I'll try to repeat it again throughout and definitely at the end, but to address that question, the way that we find time is we recognize and make a habit out of tiny little snippets during the day. So for example, the breathing practices that I'm going to guide you in, I would recommend that you try to create a habit of when you wake up in the morning, setting a second or third alarm, and before you even get out of bed, give yourself 5 minutes. 5 minutes to do one of these breathing practices. You might fall back asleep. Why? 1, you're probably sleep deprived. 2, you're still sleepy. But 3, it's putting on the brake pedal. It's helping that rest and digest. But it's a really important part of the day to sort of really allow the system to reset, because maybe you didn't have a fully restful night. This actually will help you. Let's jump ahead to the end of the day. When you lie down in bed, I suggest doing the breathing practice, and it will really help you settle in for sleep. Very importantly though, if you can set reminders maybe for a while on your calendar, put notes around the house that just say breathing practice. When you sit down to eat, take 2 minutes to do a breathing practice. When you do that, it actually will help you digest your food. So I'm going to leave that there. Integrate it into the day. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Once your system gets used to that, and your brain, mind, body will ask you for it, and it will knock you on the head and say, hello, I need a breathing practice. I need a reset. So it will eventually start reminding you. It will get so used to it. So I want to say something else before I start. I wanted to mention something that's super important. I talked about how stress not just messes with our head, right? It makes us think things that aren't helpful and act in ways that aren't really in alignment with our values, but it messes with our gut. So there's something called maybe you've heard of this, those of you who are into science like I am, but it's called the vagus nerve. And I promise I'm not going to do much more than mention it. The vagus nerve, and you might not be able to see it because of the reflection, VAGUS nerve. It is the longest nerve in our body, in our system, and it runs from the brain to the gut, and then all along the way, it feeds information to our organs. It's like an information superhighway. It is the key piece of what's called the gut-brain axis. Some of you have been reading about this. Those of you who are really learning about gut health and how important it is will have heard about the gut-brain axis. So it oversees crucial body functions, digestion being a key piece, the whole digestive tract, the whole GI tract. And it's interestingly a key component of what's called the neuroimmune and gut-brain health. So it has an anti-inflammatory role, and inflammation is pretty implicated in all disease. And the nutrition class talks about anti-inflammatory eating, and in our exercise and nutrition sleep class, we talk about that a little bit. But there's even evidence that this vagus nerve, because it brings information from the gut, that it actually could be part of therapy for depression, anxiety. Like it plays a role in our mind states and in our psychological health. 95% of the serotonin And serotonin is a neurotransmitter that some people will sort of jokingly call the happy neurotransmitter. If you suffer from depressive, clinical depression, and they put you on an SSRI, what that SSRI does is it helps more serotonin circulate in the brain so that you have a little more distance from the depression. 95% of serotonin it's not produced in the brain, it's produced in the small intestine. Our immune system is primarily in the gut. So this vagus nerve, which is taking information from the gut and feeding the brain and back and forth, and then all of the other organs along the way, is really important. Okay, that's all I'll say about that right now, but that's hugely important. And the reason I mention it and sort of do a foot stomping part about the vagus nerve is that the techniques I will guide you in today stimulate the vagal nerve, help tone it, because it's the brake pedal. So actually it allows us to put the brake pedal on. Okay, so I promised you practices. We're gonna do it. Let me stop just for a second while I'm gonna readjust here. Cheryl, any comments, questions, concerns before I start teaching?
They are right with you. A lot of folks are saying, I need this, that this is really helping them and this is excellent. Some are discussing that they also have had anxiety or stress and hoping that this will be helpful for them.
Thank you, Cheryl. It will, I promise you. These breathing practices go right to, unintended again, the heart of the system, the gut of the system, because it's going to immediately tap into the vagus nerve and to the autonomic nervous system, those two branches, the fight and flight and the rest and digest. We're going to try to balance those out, and we're going to try to stimulate that vagus nerve, which will then help the gut be healthier, help the brain be healthier. So the first breathing practice that I'm going to teach you, and what I'm going to do is we have about 31 minutes. I'm going to try to fit in at least 3 breathing practices, and then a couple of minutes in between to see if you have any questions or comments that I can address. Cheryl, let me ask you right now, if there are questions in the chat that I can't get to, is there a way to save the chat and send it to me so that I can post answers on the website or something?
I will do my best to copy and paste them.
Cheryl, yes. So when we record this, it will. I will also have all of the chat. So yes, the answer is yes. We can get that to you.
Great.
Thank you. What a great team. Thank you so much. So yes. So this is what I will do. Questions that I don't get to, comments that I don't get to. They're just. I would be delighted to get a copy of that, and then either videotape. Short videotape responses or practices to remind you of what we're going to do, what we're doing, or type stuff up. And probably the easiest thing would be to load it onto the website, or you'll get my email. So you can also email me and I can send it to you. Happy to do that. So I'm going to do a first practice, which actually has been researched for about 30 years from an organization that's called the Heart Math, M-A-T-H. Some people think I'm saying Heart Math. Heart Math, M-A-T-H, Heart Math Institute. And they're actually here in California, just south of where I am right now. And I got certified in them about 12 years ago. And they have a almost just one main practice that they have researched and how it helps balance out that brake and that gas pedal. So here's how it goes. I assume you're all sitting down, maybe you're lying down, which is fine. I always start a breathing practice by just taking a moment, closing your eyes if you're comfortable closing your eyes. If not, just lower your gaze a little bit. Don't bend your head over. You want your head upright so that you have a nice, elongated, lengthened spine. Helps us breathe better. Just lower your gaze a little bit, gaze softly at the ground. So if you're comfortable, close your eyes and just see if you can bring your attention into the body. Now, you're going to still hear me. It's not like you're not going to hear or even that thoughts won't be coming up, but your focused attention is in the body. And one of the best ways to anchor in the body is just notice the weight of your body, sort of wherever you feel that contact between wherever you're sitting, I'll just say the chair, the couch, and your legs and your backside or your back, wherever your body is making contact with that surface. See if you can anchor your attention there just for a moment. Feeling your weight, feeling the pressure, feeling gravity pull you in to the support of that chair. It's a really important step. It allows us to start tuning into the body, which also starts to regulate the nervous system. Just tuning into something neutral, like the pressure and the weight of your body and the support of the chair. And you may already immediately notice a settling effect, maybe. If so, just sort of take that in. What does that feel like? What is it like to have that sense of maybe energy flow or heaviness? Maybe some calm or ease? Just drink that in. And then notice where you feel your breath. Are you feeling it in the belly, which is really where we want to be breathing from? We really want our breath, as we bring it in, to come down and expand the belly. In fact, ideally, you're going to feel it expanding all the way around, sides and back. So just take a moment to notice if the breath is up in the chest and the shoulders, which means we're going to have constricted breathing. If you can bring it down at least to the diaphragm area, to the belly, and just notice your normal breath for a moment, just belly expanding and belly contracting. And then we're going to actually do a bit of a controlled breathing practice. So as you're breathing in and just feeling the breath coming into the body and leaving the body, let's take our next inhalation and make it match in duration to our exhalation. So the inhale being either 3, 4, or 5 seconds in, and whatever you choose, keep the out breath the same length of time, 3, 4, or 5 seconds. And just allow the system to tune into breathing in, maybe counting 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and out 3 seconds. If that's comfortable, you might try 4 seconds. This needs to be comfortable. If at any time, in any breathing practice, you start feeling your chest constricting or tightness of breath, drop attention to your breath. Don't anchor your attention in your breath at that point. Just anchor it in the feeling of your body on the chair. And that will help the system settle down again. Sometimes when we attend to our breath, if we have anxiety or stress, a lot of stress in the system, we can actually start to feel a little anxious. We don't want that, right? That's not what we want. So then you can go back to feeling your body in the chair. As long as it's comfortable, notice the breath and breathing in 3, 4, or 5 seconds. Maybe pausing just briefly before you exhale, the same duration of time. 3, 4, or 5 seconds. Whatever your in-breath is, match your out-breath. I'll be quiet for a minute while you just tune into that practice. And just notice what happens in the system, primarily in the body. A rate that's comfortable for you. So whether your attention is still on the breath or if you've gone back to feeling your body in the chair, that's great, either way. Let your attention drop from the counting of the breath if that's where you are. And just see if you can. This isn't just the last little bit of this practice. Can you evoke some sense of gratitude or appreciation for anything? Your pet, a favorite place, a person, something that somebody's done for you that's a kind act. Can you think of something and then do you actually feel any sense of gratitude? Do you feel that in the body? Just see if that's available. If it's not, don't worry about it. Just checking in. And then go ahead and just open your eyes or lift your gaze and just take a moment maybe to look around the room where you're sitting. And then just also notice the body. Notice if anything has shifted in the body. More ease, a sense of relaxation, some heaviness. And if we have time and you feel like chatting, otherwise just enjoy it. If the breathing practice, like I said, made you feel a little anxious, what we want to do at that moment, because we do want to integrate breathing practices, but if they ever create any sense of constriction or dis-ease, if you will, dis-ease in the body, tune into your body up against a solid surface. If you're standing, feel your feet on the ground. If you're sitting, feel the weight of your body and the pressure pressing into the seat of where you're sitting, of the chair or the couch. So with that practice, by breathing in and out for the same number of seconds, we're actually forcing the gas and the brake pedal to be on equal amounts of time. I'm not going to go into it, but I'd love to be able to talk about what's going on and the heart rate variability and all of that. We don't have time. But if you're interested, you can email me and I can send you information on that. Just know that that was helping to balance out those two branches of the autonomic nervous system. Really important for reset. So I'm going to pause for a second and just see if there are any questions, any comments before I go to breathing practice number 2.
They are loving it, Colleen. Some are saying that it is relaxing, very nice and informative. Another, just like me, it says, I always have a hard time relaxing my stomach muscles to allow my breathing to expand properly. I feel that. Some are saying that it feels good to breathe that way. Lots of great comments.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I really appreciate the comments about it's hard to relax the stomach muscles. So there's a very good reason for that. Those of you who have a baby, have had a baby, are around babies, or can just imagine a baby breathing, where if you were really tuning in and watching that baby, where would that baby be breathing from? What would be moving? Would the baby be breathing like this or like this? I think we all know the answer. Babies come knowing how to do this. We forget, quotation marks. Why? Because we're stressed most of the time. And when we're stressed, we breathe like this. We don't realize it, but we're breathing in the upper body. Our shoulders are tense. We're breathing up here. What happens when we do that? So what we want, the way that the body, and I hope you can see this, I'm going to stand on my tippy toes. So diaphragm, belly, right? The way that we are created, wired, designed to breathe is when we breathe in, and let's just play with this for a second. As you take your breath in, if you can just feel the air coming in through the nose, and remind me, I want to talk about nasal breathing and why that's important. So we do want to try to breathe through the nose if we can, not the mouth. Breathing in through the nose, feeling the air coming down the windpipe, coming down. Once you do some relaxation practices, like these breathing practices over time, what you'll be able to do is the diaphragm will be able to drop. When we belly breathe, the diaphragm drops and the muscles of the rib cage actually lift and sort of open up, widen the rib cage. But when we're in a compressed state, either because we're on our phones all the time or we're typing, which we do all the time, look what happens. We're compressing this whole area, right? Well, when we do that, these muscles stop sort of figuring out what they're supposed to do. So I would suggest that you take this nice and easy, right? We don't want to create any more anxiety around this. But let's just take a moment now to sit or stand if you prefer standing. And let's just scrunch over like you're either typing or looking at your phone. Just kind of, you can even exaggerate it. But probably this is not that much of an exaggeration, right? Look how much I'm curved. Look how much I'm compressed. I'm typing, I'm going to be like this. I catch myself like this at the computer all the time. Imagine a string at the top of your head that's actually slowly pulling you up to the ceiling. Okay? Notice what happens, right? Head comes up, nice gentle. So I'm not getting round straight, but my shoulders then can drop, my chest can open, and the diaphragm can relax a little bit. So see if you can just take a moment to let the spine elongate. Head comes up, right? Not tilted forward, not bent back, just nice and stacked right on top of the spine. And then take a moment to just drop your attention back to either your feet on the ground or your body in the chair, but your spine is still elongated, your shoulders are back into the shoulder blades, the shelves on the back, chest is open, and just feel your body connected to the chair, as we did earlier. Feel your feet rooted to the ground. And then just try to breathe in again. Nice slow breath. And then just see if you can, very slowly, just barely push the belly out. Barely push the belly out. Just a little bit. Just a little baby breath. And let that be the initial practice. Breathing in, tiny little belly breath in, and then out. And you can maybe put your hands on your belly and just feel it. Feel it kind of can be just an inch. Just coming into the hands and back out. So when I talk about a belly breath, we don't have to do a big old balloon breath, right? That can be very difficult if we're not used to belly breathing. So that's sort of a way to get started. I'm going to teach you a practice now that I've been doing a lot lately. I had a disease a few years ago, and what it did is it actually created osteoporosis in my spine because it leached calcium out of my bones. So I've been working with this yoga therapist by Zoom, and she's having me do what's called Ujjayi breath. Ujaii, I think, is the transliterated spelling. It takes a little practice, but here's why I want to do it with you. One, it really helps us build that capacity to do the lower body, belly breathing. And importantly, it actually stimulates the vagus nerve because it creates a little bit of a tenseness in the larynx and a little vibration in the core. And at the same time, it's working the core muscles. So I'm going to try to explain this via Google. So put your hands on your ribs. Just wrap your hands right around your ribs. Just, kind of hugging them, just touching lightly. Because I want you to be feeling what might happen just now. So let's just start with breathing in and see if you can go ahead and just, even if it's a little bit, take the breath into the belly. And your hands are actually going to move apart just a little bit because the belly is going to expand if it's possible for you right now. When you exhale, you're actually going to try to engage your core muscles. So it's like you're wrapping the muscles back in. So they're expanding, and then you're using those functional core muscles to pull back in. This is not easy to do, promise you. And I'm happy if you want to connect with me to guide you in another Zoom session or something, because this takes some practice, but it's wonderful. Okay, so breathing in, you start to feel the belly expand, your hands will move out. When you breathe out, engage these muscles. It's like you're really, all of your attention is imagining tightening them in and pushing the breath out. And so the muscles are kind of wrapping around, contracting the diaphragm, and the air will come back out. So let's just try that a couple of times. So when you breathe in, see if you can start to feel it a little bit in the belly, maybe even out the sides, maybe even out the lower back. That might be a little much for this morning, but let's just see what happens. Okay. Even if it's just a tiny little movement. Now, next step. Imagine that you're blowing air out on a pair of glasses. Okay, so pretend you have some glasses. Okay, just try that. You might even put your finger on the larynx because it's tightening. Okay, now, as you breathe out, so take a normal in-breath, but when you breathe out, see if you can do and you feel it. Now, what we want to try to do is on the next exhale, see if you can make that same tightening in the larynx, but not a ha, but more of a almost like a wave in the ocean. And feel that. You can feel it tightening in the throat. So breathe in through the nose. Right now, just breathe out through the mouth as practice. Okay, so try that just a couple of times. Breathe in through the nose and out like you're breathing on the glasses, but one even breath. I don't know if you can hear me. Next step. This is the last step. This is not easy, but it's something that's worth trying. I'd like for you now to try to breathe in and out of the nose. Side note, really important. There's so many reasons why nasal breathing is healthier than mouth breathing, actually. There's a ton of research around it. It has to do with nitric oxide that's produced in the parasinuses. Nitric oxide is hugely important for actually better oxygenation in the tissues. And when you breathe in and out of the nose, more nitric oxide is created, and that actually kills bacteria and kills viruses. So lots of reasons. If you're stuffy, it can be a little frustrating, but nitric oxide is actually also a nasal dilator. So eventually it helps free up the air. It helps reduce the tissue inflammation. And if you have sinus problems like I do, this breath practice actually helps clear the sinuses. So not to get too graphic, but it does. So what I want to ask you to try to do is we're going to go ahead and, use that tightness in the breath. See if you can maintain that tightness in that larynx as you breathe in. Almost like, when you suck into a straw? Pretend you're sucking in through a straw. And you feel that tightness there? That's that same sensation. So we're going to try this. Mouth is gently closed, not tight. Tongue is up against the back of the top teeth where it touches the palate. So that allows the jaw to slacken a little bit, to become unhinged. See if you can take, it doesn't have to be a super deep breath, just a breath in, but see if you can constrict, like you're restricting the air. I know it sounds weird, it sounds counterintuitive. Breathing in with that, like you're breathing in through a straw, and when you breathe out, it's that sound, but your mouth is closed. Takes practice. Don't worry. And let's just play with that for a minute or so. Doesn't have to be super deep. And if you ever lose the feeling, you can always open your mouth again and then close your mouth and see if you can keep that tightness in the larynx. Just, it's a little restriction on the in and the out breath. And you'll eventually hear a sound. It's like waves of the ocean. And the sound will be different coming in as it is out. So let's just try that for a minute. And just notice what happens. Whatever duration, we're not counting the breath on this one, not trying to breathe in a particular number of seconds or out, just a normal in and out breath. And then we'll stop with that one. That is a tricky one. But I really wanted to share that. And I would, like I said, I would be really happy to do a call with you. It's such a powerful breathing practice because it stimulates that vagus nerve. It really helps settle the system, and it's doing a whole host of other things. Add to that though, I talked about the nitric oxide in the nose and why nasal breathing is so important. It actually helps us oxygenate our system better than mouth breathing. It helps, it's a more efficient, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like, well, I'm getting more oxygen through my mouth, but the exchange is different. If you hum while you're breathing, you're actually increasing that nitric oxide by, some say up to 50%, it can be 10 to 50%. So what does that mean? Breathing in, let's just play with that. Breathe in. And you know, in fact, think about this. The system knows when we're stressed and we take a deep breath, what do we often do? We go, or, right? That is the system trying to say, hey, I need vibration in my vagus nerve. I need vibration in my core. So try just breathing in. And when you breathe out through the nose, ideally, see if you can just hum a little bit. There's a practitioner in a body-based trauma resolution practice who does something called VU breathing. This is a little weird, but I'm going to do it with you. Breathing in, and when you breathe out, you can open your mouth this time, and you make a VU sound, and you're going to feel this vibration in the vagus nerve, in the core. So here's how it goes. Like a foghorn. So this one is okay to breathe out of the mouth because it helps create that vibration. That has a huge stimulating effect on the vagus nerve. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can close your mouth, or you feel that vibration. So let's, now that you're home alone, right? Might as well practice it. Just until the out breath is, that actually has a huge stimulating effect on and when we stimulate that vagus nerve, we're actually helping digestion. Isn't that wild? So wild. I know we're running out of time. So we have 5 minutes left, it looks like. I'm going to pause. So what did we do? We did heart math. You can look that up online, or you can contact me, heart math, coherence, heart focused breathing. We did Ujjayi breath, which is a yoga type of breathing. And we did VU, V-O-O, VU breath. I don't have time to do a mindful breathing practice, and that's probably best because I'd like to save that. And I'm going to integrate that. If you choose to do the mindful movement in the next live session, I'm going to integrate mindful breathing into that. Otherwise, there are tons of resources on mindful breathing, but you're also welcome to contact me. So I'm going to stop. We have 4 minutes. And I just want to get comments, questions that I might be able to address in the short time we have left.
Okay, let me check the chat. A lot of folks are saying this was refreshing and that the breathing really has helped them. The technique was awesome. Let's see. Lots of information. I was breathing right along, so I may have missed some of the chat as I was participating. But breathing through the nose versus the mouth is like quality over quantity. Let's see. Lots of information. Some folks should have been breathing, and they were asking about a reflection form. Should have been taking their time to breathe. Let's see. Looks like everyone is saying thank you, awesome. I'm seeing a lot of thank yous and awesomes. Wonderful session, very helpful.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thank you for managing the chat, and thank you all for that. There's so much to talk about in breathing, and I'll just wrap up by saying that, again, please don't hesitate to email me. I'll put stuff up on the website in the coming week. Just give yourself time and space to practice. Breathe through the nose as much as you can. Just make that a habit. It's healthiest for us. Take a break from, take a break like I said, leave little notes around the house or put it on your calendar that says breathing practice, and you put down your phone, that string on the head, open the shoulders, open the chest, feel the air coming in. If you can, just baby belly breath. It takes time to retrain our system. It really does. So thank you for joining me. And I think we're 2 minutes before. I don't want to keep you late. One thing. I want to ask one last thing. That first practice I did, that where you're breathing in and out the same number of seconds, the coherence breathing or heart focused breathing, that actually is relaxing to the system. It does help balance the system. Initially, when you do that, you might feel sleepy. Why? Because we've had the gas pedal on all the time, and it's asking the brake pedal to get equal time. So your system is naturally going to feel sleepy. I promise you, what will happen over time if you practice that is it will be relaxing and you'll actually be more alert. It actually has a huge effect on brain functioning. So can't go into it, but it's good stuff. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was incredible, and I will be using some of that. And I want everyone to know that all of our presenters today also have a recorded session. And Colleen, yours is what was your recorded session?
My partner is doing nutrition.
Yes.
And she'll talk about gut health. She'll talk about inflammation and all of that. And tips. So yes. That's our